Welcome to Highland Waves, a podcast coming to you from Marshbrook Studios, located beside the world-renowned Margaree River in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia, Canada. At Highland Waves, we feature stories about the people who live, work, play, and visit here in Inverness County. This morning, I'm pleased to have in the studio Mr. Paul Mac Neil, president of the 41-year-old Margaree Salmon Association, an organization well known for its dedication to Atlantic salmon conservation. Good morning, Paul. Welcome to Highland Waves.
Morning, Pat. It's nice to be here.
Well, thank you for coming out. What and when was your initial connection to the Margaree?
Oh, the initial connection would have happened around the late 1990s when a project I was working on involving industrial Cape Breton brought me to Cape Breton over a period of time, and one of the people who was working with me was an avid salmon fisherman, and he brought me for a tour.
Oh, okay.
And so the day he brought me, we just went from pool to pool, and I kind of loved the scenery and liked the walks in the woods, and I wouldn't say I fell in love with it, but it was pretty special for me, and I'm a Cape Bretoner who had never been here.
Okay. So you were born in Cape Breton?
I was born in Arishat,
okay.
Acadian community on the southeast coast.
Okay. Went to school there?
Went to high school there, went to elementary in Lewisdale where I was raised.
Okay. And then on to university, I suppose? St.
Mary's University and then technical college.
Okay. So you're an engineer, are you not?
I'm an engineer, industrial engineer. I graduated in 1978.
Okay. When did you get started in salmon fishing?
Oh, well, that would have been quite a bit later. I guess the first salmon experience I had was in Newfoundland, fishing for trout and hooked a salmon.
Oh, okay.
And that was a pretty exciting time. And then after that, the same fellow who brought me here also brought me back to the Margaree to actually do some salmon fishing with his rods and his reels and his flies and.
Oh, wow.
And so that would have happened probably about 2004 or so.
Okay. So you're fished elsewhere besides the Margaree?
Just Newfoundland, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Just Newfoundland,
okay.
yeah.
What's your favorite river?
Well, it's got to be the Margaree. I fished probably 6 or 7 rivers in Newfoundland over years, but the Margaree is definitely my favorite.
How long have you been with the MSA?
Well, when I decided to retire in 2015, even prior to that, I've owned my cabin here since 2008. When I decided I was going to retire, I knew then I was going to join the board of directors. And as soon as I joined, I took over the river crew, the people that we hire every summer to spend time in the river.
You're president now. And of course, that means you're involved in all aspects of the organization. And I noticed you were involved in the physical parts as well, because you got involved in the swift water training. Can you talk about that a little?
I am interested in more of the crew. That's why I volunteered for the crew. And I spent many days with the crew. And so I felt it was important for me to take the training that was available to us. And this came up, the Nova Scotia Salmon Association sponsored it. And it was something that we encourage, and Aaron, our new supervisor, has also taken the swiftwater training. So I went up to New Brunswick, to a small river in New Brunswick to take the training, and it was pretty exciting.
Yeah.
More physical than I probably wanted, but it's worth it to have that training in your background.
Yeah, of course. What's the MSA's mandate and goals?
Well, I guess you have to look at our motto is to preserve, to protect, and enhance. And so really our whole objective is to protect the salmon stocks and hopefully enhance them wherever possible. So when we look at the salmon stocks, it's our priority. Although we get involved with trails and other things, maintaining our feeder streams and supporting the hatchery is probably our primary goal right now. So we're doing a lot of monitoring. We've invested a lot in monitoring this year to look forward. And I think that's the new change for us, is looking more long term as opposed to short term. The past number of years, it's been planned for next year, execute in-stream work with the support of Nova Scotia Salmon Association. And then now we're trying to look a bit longer term.
The Margaree has changed over the years dramatically. And which ones stand out for you in terms of changes since you've been associated with the organization?
In terms of changes, I would say the stocks seem to be holding their own. Like, we've had good years, we've had bad years. This year seems to be one of the better years. I judge that by how many people have said they've been successful in hooking a fish on the river. And there's a lot of people that have had success this year, which is great for our stocks. I think that a lot of changes is we have a lot of high water events now, more so than we had in the past. I remember the 2010 event specifically because I just bought my cabin, and the water levels at where I am up in Portree, the water practically hit the bridge on a constant basis. And that was an eye-opener. We haven't seen that as much since, but in the last couple of years, we're seeing a lot more high water events. And when you have high water events, you have invariably going to be the river's going to move. The river's a living entity, and it just wants to go where it's going to go. And sometimes there's barriers that stop it, and sometimes it goes where it wants. And I think that's what we have to look at in the future.
Well, climate change is going to be with us for a long time.
It's not going away.
No. And back in 2017, you did a geomorphological study on the river. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, that study was done. We had a community meeting where we wanted to identify the priorities for the association. We brought in a group from Sydney, and they came in and they did a fact-finding mission with a lot of stakeholders. And one of the things they brought up was we should really try to identify what's going on with the river. That's when we went out and tendered for a fluvial group to come in and study the river. And they went from top to bottom in a canoe over, I think it was 6 days. And they basically studied and identified where the river is moving. And that helped us to identify where priorities are and how to best handle things. From that moment on, we knew that we had to keep an eye on things on the river system. We did a lot of research at that time as well that showed that a lot of work that had been done in the past 20 years had failed at some point in the future. So we kind of backtracked a little bit and said, we better be careful what we do and make sure we do it right. And I think now we're at the point now where we have engineers, Charlie McGuinness and his engineer, who come and they look at all our activities that we plan. And the present focus is we have to go big or don't go at all. By going big, I mean if we're going to do anything on the main river, it has to be very large rocks so that it'll be stable. And I think that's probably where we're going to have to look in the future, is trying to establish that if we do something, we better do it right. And it costs a lot of money to do it, but we're focused on that.
Well, you certainly did quite a job on the berm in the sanctuary here, and I think that was back in somewhere around 2017, I think.
Yeah, I think we started it in 17, but the work and the money didn't arrive till late 18, 19. It was a 2-year project, and that was the first big project where we used extremely large rock. And I was just up there this week to look for broodstock collecting, and the berm is holding and the large rock is still in place, and so it works. Even though the water has gone over that berm since that time, it's holding.
Certainly, if it had gone over prior to the berm going in there, there would have been a tremendous amount of damage downriver, not just to property, but to buildings, to a lot of things.
Well, the whole community up there would have been isolated. Anything across those small bridges would have been gone. And that community would have been isolated without a doubt, because the small bridges before you get to the main bridge would never handle the volume of that river.
You've also done some armor rocking recently, I think, in the lower part of the river. Is that correct?
Yeah, we did just below Doyle's Bridge last year, and it held up pretty good this year when we had a Fiona and we had some storms. So it's holding its own. Again, we had the issue with trying to find large enough rock. There's projects that want to get done, but the rock stability is important for us, so it has to be large enough that it's going to stay in the river. We have a project on the go right now at the swimming hole. We couldn't get the rock in time, but the rock has been purchased and it will be stored by the river to be placed next year.
For our listeners, the swimming hole is one of the more popular pools on the river, and the river has intervened and changed it somewhat, so it's a great thing that that has been done. You've been concentrating on tributaries as well. Can you elaborate on that a little?
Yes, when I joined the association back in 2015, I took over the crew. Our crew basically is a crew of 4. One is a supervisor, and in the Margaree area, we lean towards older gentlemen who knew how to handle themselves in the woods, knew how to handle a chainsaw. So what we do is they go into the tributaries, many small tributaries and some larger ones like Lake Ola Brook and Nile Brook and the Ingram's Brook, Marsh Brook as well. And we basically go in to identify where there are issues. We have support from the Nova Scotia Salmon Association. They'll come in and they'll identify where they think we need to do a little enhancement. Might be to put a digger log in or a side bank restoration, plant some trees, and then our crew go ahead and do that throughout the summer period. They tend to start in June and they end in September every year.
Of course, tributaries are where young salmon are most protected from predators. You got nice cool water in there, so it's a real useful exercise. How do you measure the results of your work in those tributaries?
The measurement is really based on the swim throughs, and not necessarily swim throughs, but the electrofishing that's done by the DFO. We were up on the top of Captain Allen's Brook 2 or 3 years ago, where we did a lot of work, and up on the brook. When we were up close to 2 miles above the confluence with the southwest, Nick McGinnis was with us, and he was identifying all the small salmon that were in the brook. And we're way up in the brook, and they're saying, and I'm asking the question: are these low? These are definitely spawned up here. So a salmon came up here in the fall and produced those eggs that produced those small salmon. And when DFO comes in, they electrofish a number of areas, and they determine what's the productivity in those tributaries. So that's really the measurement of how it works. When Nova Scotia Salmon Association comes in, they do measurements for all the tributaries to determine the flow of water and when there should be a ripple, when there should be a small pool. The small pools are needed so that the fry can have a place to sit and rest and restore themselves and grow before they head down to the main river. So we make sure there's enough pools through the length of the tributary so that those fry have a place to stay.
That's quite a job, and a very important one. Paul has mentioned Nick McGinnis. Nick McGinnis is an ecological engineer who is providing consulting services to the Margaree Salmon Association. Is that correct?
Yeah, Nick now works for the Nova Scotia Salmon Association. So he comes down. He's our rep. He lives in the Antigonish area. So whenever we need NSSA support, he will come down to help us identify where we should be doing work, where we should be doing tree planting, and he'll identify for the crew with flags a number of digger logs, restoration work, and he comes probably 2 or 3 times every year to help us get more work so that we can continue on. This present year, he came in late August and identified a number of locations we should be tackling, and then our crew went ahead and finished those before the end of the year.
Recently, you've done some work around the river to expand parking areas. Also, you put a lot of effort into making a barrier-free access point and structure for handicapped individuals who want to fish. You speak a little bit about that?
One of our, I wouldn't call it a sideline, but one of our things that we try to do is support the community as much as possible. Joel Robinson, his background is architecture involving landscapes and things like that, and he had some experience with handicapped accessibility. And one of the things that we identified during many meetings was the need to possibly put a handicapped accessible location on the river. At the time, we were investigating the main river, and after looking at it for quite some time, we pretty well had a hard time finding a location that would be safe and still hold its own in high water. So we decided to do a first one, and we ended up at Lake Ola at the park. So we negotiated with the park. Joel did his job on designing and securing all the materials. A lot of the physical work was done by him and a crew of people that he employed. So that accessibility project was put in, I believe, in 2017. And we've had some good responses to that. And it was also a project that was supported by the county, the province, because we put it on park land. So the province had to accept it when it was done, designed, and accept the responsibility for it in the future. So that was a very good project. When you talk about parking lots, we've had issues with cars parked along roads, especially the Cabot Trail Road. So people may know the Seal Pool has a very famous pool, and it's people have been parking along the Cabot Trail for years. And there was a lot of complaints from people driving by or trying to park. And so we decided to try to fix it up. So we talked to local people and how we can fix it, and we spent some money to get the parking lot a little bit upgraded so it handles a bit more traffic. That's something that I think we will always do. Swimming hole is another one where we had a local, Jockey Miller and his family, came together when the old road was blocked off due to farming. Jockey Miller stepped up and put a road in for us. So I think, working with the community is important to us. And I've told my crew that when stuff happens in the community, like at the library, when the storm knocked down trees, we went in and cleared those trees. So my belief is that our crew is here for the community, not just for the river. It's their priority. But whenever we can do something to help the community, that's what we want to do.
I think it's well appreciated as well. The Margaree is a heritage river, and recently there's been a lot more activity than fishing on the river. There's paddle boarding, there's tubing. Has there been any conflict or interference with one or the other over the years?
I wouldn't call it conflict, but there's been issues. We had issues with litter when it first started, when they first brought the company in, and they thought they could handle things with having garbage cans, but it quickly proved to be a problem. But I think Lee Fraser has come up and solved the problem. He's put a parking lot in. And although you get the odd complaint from some fishermen about the fact that there's a tuber or a canoe or a kayaker going by, the river is for everybody. And I think we support anything that involves the river. At a recent meeting, we had people talking about, well, how can you or should you even control it? And from our board's perspective, the river is not for fishermen only. The river is a beautiful entity. It's been here long before people have, and hopefully will be here long words after. So I think we're not going to discourage people that want to do something on the river, no matter if it's a company or an individual. I've heard many stories about people who come to this river every year just to canoe it. They're not fishermen, but they put their canoe in up in Big Idyllwill, and they end up as far as they can and take their time, and they enjoy what we all enjoy, the scenery and the beautiful life we have here in Margaree. So I don't think we want to discourage that.
Of course not. Recently, there's been a new group started here on the river. Do you know what their goals and mandate is? How are they compared to Margaree? What is the difference?
Are you talking about the landowners group?
Yeah.
Well, the landowners group, from my understanding, is they have their interest in protecting properties, and I think that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I think everybody wants to protect what they have. I think we've talked to them. I've met with them. I know the county councilor, our councilor, has met with them a number of times. So I think it's something that they have to take on themselves. The Margaree Salmon Association, our priority is the salmon themselves. The river, of course, is important. That's why we have a heritage river here, and that's why we want to keep it as a heritage river. But a river is never going to stay the same. We don't want to have a channeled river like they have in Europe, where it's concrete from one end to the other. That's not what we call a heritage river. That's something else. And I don't think we want to go there. So I think I respect what they want to do, and I have no issue with them protecting their own land. And I think there's ways to do that which involve, they can go out and seek funds, they can do it themselves. There's planting that can happen, and we'll support what they want to do. But I think our priority is very clear. It's about the salmon, and we want to make sure the stocks stay the way they are, or possibly even get better.
Much of what the Margaree Salmon Association is able to accomplish could be traced back to an endowment you received a number of years ago. Can you speak to that?
Yes, there was a Dr. Wallace from the United States who he fished here unbeknownst to a lot of people, but he fished here for many, many, many years, and I believe it was in 2015, 2016. We found out that in his will he had designated an amount of money for the Margaree Salmon Association. We received that money about 6 years ago, would have been 2017 or so, and as a board we decided that that money should make sure that we have something for the future. So it was decided to try to manage the money so that we wouldn't go into the principal, to try to use the interest from the investments to try to help us get through each year. And so far in the 6 years we've had the fund, we've managed to do just that. We have targets to keep that fund up, so that a board, when I'm gone in 20 years, somebody else is going to have it. He will still have that fund available to him. It has grown to us to about $2 million. And that interest from that is what helps us hire the crew every year, and also to promote things that we do. So I think the board of directors as we are today, which we have a good, strong board, quite a variety of different people in it, we look constantly for new members, and we added Blair Party this year. So we want to bring people in who can help us do this stuff. And I think in 20 years, there should be a board there that has that fund established by Dr. Wallace for us to keep using for years to come.
Well, that's wonderful. It seems like there's certainly prudent management of the fund. What about DFO, and what did DFO do for you or help you in respect to the river here?
Well, I mean, DFO is the guiders. They're the people that have all the power. They have all of the resources. And since joining the board in 2015, Bill Haley steered us in a direction to support all stakeholders. DFO is probably our most critical stakeholder. They have expended a lot of effort on our river. We are a index river for Nova Scotia, and as such, we get a lot of support from them. Electrofishing, swim-throughs, smolt wheels, salmon traps. These are all things that DFO perform on our river, which they don't perform on many rivers in Nova Scotia. So because we are an index river, we're getting a lot of support from DFO. DFO also has funds that allow us to put up for money to help us deliver projects. Most of the big projects we've done in the past 8 years since I've been around, part of the funds come from DFO. Our group is very supportive of them. And it starts every spring when we do a kilt capture program, where we go fishing in the winter months, February, March, April, and we we record what catches are being had, and male, female, hatchery, non-hatchery, and in some cases they're tagged. So this is a project that goes on. We've been supporting it ever since it came back to the Margaree, and we will continue to support it. Much like the electrofishing, where our new employee Aaron Allen has been certified, he's going to take electrofishing training. We're working with other groups like the Shetty Camp River and the Nova Scotia Salmon Association to try to support electrofishing that DFO do. And I think all of this is to bring out the value they give to us, and also to communicate that to our members. We wanted the members to understand. We came up with a water protocol, a temperature monitoring protocol, for a reason. DFO was recommending it, and we supported it, but DFO listened to what we believed was important. So when I talk about DFO, it's with a lot of respect, and I think they have a lot of respect for us as an organization. So when we supply them with information about a warm water protocol, they don't just fluff it off. They listen to what we say. They're concerned about the salmon as much as we are, and I think our relationship is very strong. Much like with the Nova Scotia Salmon Association, we have a strong relationship with them as well. We support them, they support us, and I think we have to do that. We have to get involved with all stakeholders in order for us to be successful.
The warm water protocol, for our listeners, is a protocol where the river is closed should the temperature reach 20 degrees Celsius. And that happens frequently now, and since climate change has raised its ugly head again. The Atlantic Salmon Federation is also involved in a lot of what you do. Can you just comment on them a little bit, please?
Well, the newest program that we're involved with Atlantic Salmon Federation is called Wild Salmon Watersheds. Back 2 years ago, I guess that would be 2021, they came up with a new program where they want to support basically areas, watersheds, where salmon stocks are fairly stable. The Margaree, of course, came up, Shetty Camp came up, and there's rivers in New Brunswick and rivers in Newfoundland that are also involved. Ultimately, ASF would like to see a program where there are watersheds around the region that are being supported for long-term goals. And I think one of the big interests I brought when they brought up this program was they want to look 7 generations down the road, 100 years, so that we're planning way down. And unfortunately, our association can't look that far. The monitoring system we established this year will help us get to the point where we can do that. But I think the ASF role, they want to try to get us all thinking farther term with support from education facilities, get doctorate programs to look at. And climate change is one of their big issues. Forestry is another big issue. We tend to they're too big for us, but I think with the support of ASF, and they are going to supply some funds for the next 3 years, we will receive, as well as Shetty Camp River will receive $40,000 from each year in the next 3 years to help us do our job. And for us, it's all about the monitoring systems.
There's been always controversy about hatcheries in terms of the survivability of hatchery-raised fish versus wild fish. The Margaree has had a hatchery here since 1902, I think it is. What is the relationship between the Margaree Salmon Association, and the hatchery?
Well, much like with DFO, our relationship is very strong with the hatchery. We support the hatchery, 200%. I was just involved with broodstock collection this past week, doing swim throughs with the supervisor, Jamie, identifying where salmon are, and then going out to do collection. During the winter months, there's fin clipping, there's spawning of the males and females in the hatchery. From our perspective, there is no more that we can do that I guess we consider the hatchery to be a critical element for our success. Every time there's an issue at the hatchery, we're there. We don't want anybody to be misunderstood about our support, whether that's ASF or any other group. We believe the hatchery is a critical element. It was here since 1902. There's no doubt in my mind when we do broodstock collection, and you see sometimes 10 to 20% of all the salmon collected are hatchery raised salmon. It's a positive thing. And just for the listeners to know, during broodstock collection, the hatchery raised fish are never used for spawning. They're always using wild salmon, not the broodstock. So that's something for people to realize. Every time we have a hatchery raised salmon in the net, they go back in the river.
Since its inception, the Margaree Salmon Association has done a tremendous service to the river, to resource, to those who angle, and to the community. How do the people who live here look upon the association?
Well, not being a local, I'll have to be careful with this one because there's a mixed bag of feelings. Some people don't think we do enough, and some people think we do it for people that are not local. I know a lot of local people who do fish, but I also know a lot of people who come here from across North America, and in fact around the world. Just during broodstock collection, I met a couple of men who've been coming here from Germany for 20 years. They come here from Germany. They spent 2 weeks in one of our resorts, and they basically have fallen in love with this river. Those people, I think, I don't want to say some locals think that they are why we are here. We're not here for them. We're here for the salmon. And I've heard comments like, well, the board is made up of all Americans, and we don't even have an American on our board. So I think there's a mixed understanding in the community. And that's unfortunate because I think most of the people are doing stuff for the right reason, which is we just want to protect the salmon. That's it. We want people to come to this river and enjoy, especially this time of year in October when you're seeing many fishermen on the river, and those people are all here for one reason: to enjoy what we have to offer and to keep coming back year after year. And when I see people and meet people like those two gentlemen from Germany, I'm impressed by the fact that they've identified this many years ago, far before my time, and they still come here every year. And I asked them, well, is it always successful? Not always. A lot of people come here for years and never hook a salmon, but they still keep coming back. And I think it's important for the local people to understand is that that's something that brings to the community something that other places don't have. I mean, there's not many rivers you can go and meet people from Germany, Switzerland, China, and other places just coming here for one reason: to fish. Celtic Colors brings a lot of folks here. And I was at an event last night and met people from all over the United States. They come here for Celtic Colors, and they might see the fish and decide to come here for another reason, which is good. So I think it's important.
Yeah, the river certainly has been a huge contributor economically to the community. And I think we need to remember that, because I meet people who have been coming here for years and continue to do so and contribute and give gifts to the museum so they can raise money. So it's a wonderful connection, I think. And it's why the Margaree River is renowned and well known. Mm-hmm. Anything else you would like to add, Paul?
No, I just want to thank you, Pat. I mean, you were one of the people who brought the Margaree Salmon Association to life, and I think I just want to say thank you to you for what you're doing. I think putting us on the map is a good thing. Bringing an association like the Margaree Salmon Association into fruition, 40 some years later, and going strong, I think it's a tribute to what you've done and people like you in this area, and I think hopefully we'll continue that for many years to come.
Well, it seems like it's in good hands, and I thank you for your comments. And I thank you for being here and educating us on what the Salmon Association is doing and what its priorities are for the future. And anyone listening who feels they can help the MSA financially with its endeavours on behalf of the iconic Atlantic salmon, please visit their website at www.margareesalmon.ca. Thank you to our listeners, and the usual reminder to hit the like and subscribe button so you can stay up to date, because we will continue to have interesting topics for you that you don't want to miss. Our thought for today: if our salmon are not healthy, then our watersheds are not healthy. And if our watersheds are not healthy, then we have truly squandered our heritage and mortgaged our future. So long for now, Pat.